These are the 12 teams that I think will be competing in this year's college football playoff. To get the 5 that are required out of the way are 5 conference champions. In my 1 seed, I got the Big Ten champions, Indiana Hoosiers. Somebody finally putting a blemish on Ohio State's record and showing that that team is beatable. They have definitely earned that number 1 spot, going 13-0. At my number 2 ranking, I have the 12-1 Georgia Bulldogs, the SEC champions. After losing to Bama at first in the regular season and then turning around and putting an absolute beat down on the Tide in Atlanta, Kirby and his Bulldogs have earned that right to be the 2 seed. In my 4 seed, I have the 12-1 Big 12 champion Texas Tech Red Raiders. They put on a clinic against BYU, and that defense has earned them that bye week. In my 11th seed, I got the Tulane Green Wave from the American Athletic Conference. John Sumrall may be on the move, but he is not done yet. And then finally, in my 12th seed, I got the Sun Belt champs, James Madison. After going 12-1 and getting some help from Duke, who I don't predict will be in this final 12 rankings, they're here. They have made it. But what about the other teams? Starting off at number 3, a team that has earned the bye is obviously going to be Ohio State, 12-1. And then we begin at number 5. I got the Oregon Ducks, 11-1. Great season. At number 6, I got the Texas A&M Aggies. Their only blemish is the Texas. They didn't play the hardest of schedules, but they did beat Notre Dame. At number 7th, I got Oklahoma. I feel like they're about to catch a win, so look out for them. At number 8, I got the 11-1 Ole Miss Rebels, dropping 2 spots from last Tuesday's rankings. At number 9, I got the 10-3 Alabama Crimson Tide. They just took a beat down in Atlanta from the Bulldogs yesterday, but you can't eliminate them. They just played an extra game that none of these teams in front of them played. They beat Georgia, who just beat them. They did lose to Oklahoma, but it was close. They do have the worst loss out of any of these contending teams, though, and that was to Florida State in week 1. And the last team to make the college football playoff, at the 10 seed, I have the 9-3 Texas Longhorns. They played 5 top 10 teams. The next team in line that faced top 10 teams only played 3. And they do have that bad loss to Florida, but Bama has an even worse loss to Florida State. And up until Indiana last night, they were the only team to remain competitive against Ohio State. And remember, the chairman did say, just because you weren't in this past week doesn't mean you can't jump in if they change their mind. My first teams out are going to be Miami, Notre Dame, and Vanderbilt. And you might be asking yourself, what about BYU? How did you keep Alabama but not BYU? Well, BYU was ranked 11th in the last poll going into conference championship week. They were already eliminated. They had to win to be in, because regardless, Virginia in a G5 team or 2 G5 teams were going to jump in there and push BYU back. BYU being 11th, they were eliminated at that 11th spot already. Does losing the conference championship eliminate them from the playoff? No, they weren't in it. It only solidifies the fact that they probably won't be in it. Whereas Alabama was ranked 9th in the previous poll. They played in their conference championship. They were the number 1 team in their conference. They lost, but being 9th, they weren't going to be pushed out. An alternate scenario that I could see being set is Miami at 9th and Notre Dame at 10th, eliminating Alabama and Texas out of the mix. But this sets a very dangerous precedent. Playing in your conference championship and losing when you're on the fringe could eliminate you from the college football playoff as a whole. I think there's too much money in conference championships. I don't think the committee wants to go there and say that as well. Notre Dame doesn't participate in a conference. This puts them behind the 8 ball already. And then Miami didn't play in theirs. And I don't think you take Miami without taking Notre Dame. Notre Dame is playing better football than Miami right now. But you can't take the Irish without the Hurricanes. And that's why I think it's easier for the committee to just eliminate both together and bring in Alabama and Texas. That way, you don't eliminate teams that play in their conference title game, but then you also honor the strength of schedule. Plus, Notre Dame did lose to Texas A&M, who Texas beat.